Imagine a consumer having the ability to use all of the search functionality that agents can use, and now being able to do that easily on an app. That's what this app is, and I got high hopes for it. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about some major MLSs, multiple listing services, that are coming out with a groundbreaking new product that will challenge Zillow. It's going to go up against Zillow. Will it be successful? We will talk about that. We're also going to be talking about the one-day mortgage. Shawn, you can submit your paperwork and get your mortgage in one day, and the pros and cons about that, and if that's actually possible.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to look at in or out, whether Shawn battles in or out on 3 different properties across the United States. So Shawn, let's start with what I would say is pretty significant news. This just dropped a couple days ago, January 24th. Bright MLS, which is the DC market plus some markets north and south of DC, the RE Colorado MLS, and then the largest MLS in the United States, the California Regional MLS, have announced a joint venture called Nestfully.
Okay.
You know, there's a company called Nest and there's a company called Fully. Those are 2 separate things. It's called Nestfully. And essentially what it is, it's going to be a consumer portal. Okay, so why is that significant? Why is that different? Well, right now, the Bright MLS, which we are a part of, doesn't have a consumer-facing website. They may have Bright MLS Homes, which no one goes to. They may have a portal that you can set your client up on, which is archaic and like the Craigslist of searching for, you know, houses in that sort of similar interface. And then for a while they had HomeSnap, which has kind of gone downhill a little bit. Like, I think I sent you a HomeSnap link recently, and then when I clicked on the link, it like opened up in the browser. I hate when you send a YouTube link or send an Instagram link and then it opens in a separate browser. It should just always open up in the app.
Yeah.
So what we have here are 3 different MLSs with a pool of 240,000 agents, not an insignificant amount, 240,000 agents that do billions of dollars in sales. They did $280 billion of sales. And now the MLSs are combining to create and come out with a product that's free to use for the consumer. Shawn, what are your thoughts on consumers using this product? And for us agents, it's going to be, you know, a way for us to get essentially our leads back. What are your thoughts on that?
You know my thoughts on this. I love this. This is what has to happen. I've been hoping for this for a long time. The reason, and I think a lot of people know my steps on Zillow and what I've thought about them. And the big thing for me always was, why and how does a company say get all of our information, the information that agents work hard to get? We work hard to get these listings. We put the pictures and do all the write-ups and all this stuff to put onto a system. But then some website is able to take all that information essentially for free. They're not paying us at all for that. They're taking all this information, and guess what they can do? They can then pull in buyers and sell them back to us. They're not giving us our leads on our listings. They're selling them back. That always made me mad, to put it politely. So I've been waiting for somebody to actually create something that was going to be a competitor that would bring our leads back to us without having us to pay for them. Because there's companies out there, and listen, there's teams out there that this is what they run on. They run on Zillow, and they pay Zillow $10, $20, $50, $100,000 a month to get these leads. They have inside salespeople running these leads through. So every time you're clicking on something on Zillow, that's going to probably somebody that's paying for that lead. And I don't think it's right. And there's no, like, people think that they're clicking on a listing thinking they're going to talk to the listing agent, but it's just some random person that has no idea what they're calling about and everything else. And so this now is going to be hopefully something that consumers will actually use more than Zillow, and that it'll get some traction. But then it brings our information back to us. And I think that's really important as real estate agents. That's the way it was before Zillow, even though there was no really like anywhere to search that was good. So I think the tough thing is going to be taking market share off of Zillow, because people are ingrained in Zillow. Realtor.com is another big one, and we'll talk about that as well with CoStar. But I'm excited about it. And I think once this starts going, the fact that they have California, Colorado, and an East Coast, now we're just going to fill in the gaps. And I think people will come to Jesus on this.
So the way that Zillow works is, a curious potential home buyer sees a house, is interested, clicks, I'm interested. And I'm explaining this because a lot of times people don't realize that it's not actually the listing agent they're reaching out to. It's whoever's paying the most amount of money to have their face there. And then, that lead may even be sent to a couple different parties. And Nestfully is going to be different, where they're going to showcase the name, email address, and phone number of the listing agent. So in that way, it's clear you are reaching out to the listing agent. But Shawn, let me ask you this. You've always been a proponent of, this is my listing, this is my lead. Well, you've also been a proponent of, don't go directly to the listing agent. If you're a buyer, have your own representation. Don't go to the listing agent. So how do you wrangle those two things when now this new website that is, by agents for agents, essentially, is promoting buyers going directly to the listing agent?
Yeah, I mean, there will be problems with that, but the first time that they're wanting to see this or get more information about it, they want to know information, and who better to tell them than the listing agent? If they want to write on it, for me, I'm going to say, I can't represent you, I can't show you the property, but one of my agents on my team can, and that's where it's an easy handoff, and that's the way it should be. We don't do dual representation, even though we're allowed to in Virginia. I think it's.
Do you think this will encourage dual representation, because now you have a direct line from the buyer to the listing agent?
It could, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're a lot of states won't allow dual representation, but in our state, yeah, I think it could. I think that could be a problem. Yeah, you bring up a good point. Because a lot of people aren't on teams. So where does that lead go? And is it going to cause problems with dual agency? And, I did dual agency in the past, and I was like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? This is not worth it. Because in the end, it always feels like feels like they're being taken advantage of. And I never want people to feel that way. And so I stopped doing it, and it's not worth the extra money and everything else. So you bring up a good point about that. I see where you're coming from that. But let's be honest. How many people actually buy that listing from clicking on it? Very few. So what that does then is allows us to say, okay, well, if you don't like this listing, I've got something else coming up, or I can set you up, and we know this area well, and hopefully you can create a relationship there and represent them as a buyer in the future.
So I guess the question then is, why should a consumer, why should a client, why should a home buyer out there use Nestfully, this brand new product, when there's nothing wrong with Zillow, right? You go on Zillow, you search for a house shows up, and I'm looking up Bright MLS, and they have a 2.9 star rating on Facebook. So they haven't been able to get their own software right, and now they're going to go out and make a completely new software. How are we supposed to have any sort of confidence that they can deliver a consumer-facing app that's going to have any sort of popularity?
You bring up really good points, Matt. I tend to agree with you on this, because our MLS system is horrible. Our backend system is really archaic. I'm hoping that they're partnering up with other MLSs that have their stuff together, and partnering up with an outside corporation that is actually going to build this thing for them, so the platform actually works and is pretty and is something that people want to use. But it's hard to compete with Zillow. Zillow is the animal out there. I think the problem with Zillow is disclosure. If you're going to send a lead to somebody and it's just a consumer, and we've always talked about being proactive to consumers and giving them all the information that they need, right? I mean, you've always been saying, like, it's all about the consumer and giving them everything that they need. Well, shouldn't they know? Shouldn't there be a disclosure, a pop-up or something that says, hey, yes, you're clicking on this listing, but it's not going to the listing agent. This is going to an agent that is, paying for a lead, or somebody else that is not associated with this listing. Because there's a lot of people that are duped all the time. And I think this brings up a good point for Zillow to be disclosure friendly.
Yeah, and I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, right? Like
Sure.
I think this is
Those
overall.
are good points, though.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see where this leads, but I hope that the takeaway from this is not, oh, agents get leads at no cost. I hope that's not the takeaway, because if that's the takeaway, then as agents we've already lost, because we always think about ourselves as realtors. Well, the new site, I get my leads for free, so it's going to be a great site. No, that's a losing mentality. The new site is, okay, what's in it for the consumer? What's in it for the client? Why would someone use this site rather than Zillow? Now, some of the benefits are they are able to use filters and create searches based on unique individual needs. There's seemingly an endless amount of categories in the MLS, in the Bright MLS. To you do a save search. I mean, you could do it by so many different things. I tend to do like a wide net because I don't trust everyone to include everything. Like there are houses that are 2 level, or 1 level that people list as 2, and 2 levels that list as. So needless to say, when information is coming from the MLS to like the MLS website, it's pretty accurate, right? Like it's from the MLS.
There it is.
When it goes from MLS to Zillow or from MLS to Redfin, there's a more likely chance that something doesn't work quite right. And you can say, oh, well, they just updated the IDX feed and now that'll never happen before. But there's something to be said about duplicating the search filters and having things work essentially the same. And imagine a consumer having the ability to use all of the search functionality that agents can use, and now being able to do that easily on an app. That's what this app is, and I got high hopes for it.
Yeah. Might put us out of business, though, huh? We might not be buyer's agents. There you go. We're going to get rid of buyer agency.
So this is like another thing where buyer's agents are, kind of being pushed down a little bit.
Yeah, you're right in that regard. The key is the information that you're getting. The information will be, even our websites, they're a little bit lagging, but they'll be instantaneous. So our system is instantaneous. As soon as something goes under contract, we get notification. Whereas Zillow and some of these other sites, I don't know exactly how long it takes, but it used to be the fact that they would be slow, or there'd be like listings on there that were already under contract, and it's kind of like a bait and switch kind of thing where like, oh, this is actually under contract, but I could show you something else. But that's where it has to be. It has to be instantaneous information, because come on, you can have it update really quickly. And I think that's hopefully where it'll, and the second thing is no one else can post on there but real estate agents. So you're not getting these for sale by owner kind of things on there. You're not getting, it's just agent information coming from the agent, and that's it. And so I think that's where I think it'll be better that you're not dealing with, who you're dealing with, basically.
We're going to move on. I hate to bring this up, CoStar, because we're just going to gloss over this. We're not going to give it the justice it needs. But there's like breaking news. CoStar is in talks to buy Realtor.com. Is that the news headline I just heard?
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. So CoStar has been talking about creating, and CoStar is a commercial side of real estate. They have been talking about creating a competitor to Zillow for probably 2 years now. And so they've been trying to get it together because they also wanted it to be more agent friendly and consumer friendly, but not like built like Zillow where you're paying all this money, and they were just going to put the agent's information on there. So now it looks like instead of going that creation route, they're in talks to purchase Realtor.com for what I heard was $3 billion.
$3 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's big news.
Let's follow that story and maybe do a catch up on that maybe in a couple weeks if that actually does happen. Because if you're going against Zillow, that's a mighty task. Many have tried and many have failed.
That's true. It's a tough one.
Let's move on to our next topic. This comes to us from Inman.com. Vishal Garg is back with plan to save better mortgage with the 1-day mortgage, Shawn. So, Better CEO Vishal Garg who is infamously known for, unfortunately, maybe best known in the real estate space for his 2021 Zoom call where he fired hundreds of employees. It eventually led to, I say firing, severance, laid off. Can we all
Whatever
use
it
the
was,
term
yeah.
interchangeably? Ultimately cost more than 10,000 better employees their job. You know, they had peaked at like 11,000 employees, and now they're down to something like 1,500. Now they're down to 1,300, from 11,000. So 90% of their employees have been laid off, which is shocking when you think about it.
And he did it in a really non-personal way, which just threw everybody for a fit.
Yeah, and I don't know if all 10,000 of those people that were laid off were on the Zoom call, but some of them were. That's what he's known for. Better.com does, they do a significant amount of business. They do like billions of dollars worth of business. So in 2021, they originated $58 billion worth of loans. Now, the article conveniently doesn't have how many loans they originated in 2022 because I think it was a lot of refinances. But
and that's where a lot of these layoffs were coming from, because everybody went refi heavy during that time because the mortgage rates were so low. So all of these companies, every company out there had to hire more people because there were so many refinances. And then when the interest rates popped, there were no more refinances. So naturally they had to cut things down.
So the CEO spoke at Inman Connect in New York recently, and this was kind of his first, public appearance recently with notable things to say, if you will, because he had took a leave of absence. Another CEO took over, and then he returned to the helm of CEO of Better and announced this one-day mortgage, Shawn, where home buyers can submit their financials online, and essentially in the same business day, a couple hours later, they can receive a final commitment letter and be fully approved for the loan. This isn't a pre-approval. This isn't a pre-qualification. This is getting a full commitment in one day. So, Shawn, what are your thoughts on not only the one-day mortgage, but also kind of the better mortgage play here?
Well, they have to do something and come up with good news to counteract what they did before. Everybody in this space, in this lending space, is looking for something that can give them the edge. The one-day mortgage. Now, how quickly are they saying they can close these? Like 3 days or something? They were saying.
So
is that true?
He said in the interview that if you like, you can close your loan in 3 days.
All right. So I'm not a lender, and I just do a lot of this. But first of all, closing in 3 days, there are regulations that have to be in place. So don't be fooled by the headlines, because there are government regulations. There's TRID you have to get through in order to close your loan. These are disclosures that the lender has to send to you, that you have to know what your loan estimates are, and you have to know what the closing disclosure says. And so normally this is like a 5-7 day period before you can actually close the deal. So I don't think he's able to get around that because this is a government regulation. So I don't know how he would get around that. The other thing is he's saying that he's clearing these people within 12 hours. 3/4 of the people that are on the system, he's clearing them in 12 hours, which could be possible. Now, there are things that you have to do, but again, I think these people this is a very small section of buyers that can actually perform to this, in my opinion. Now, I don't know what this could be totally different, but for instance, if one of our lenders was closing it the quickest they can close, and I will say the quickest they could probably close it would be 8 days. That's the quickest we've seen. And in talking to Rich, one of our lenders, and Shawn and all these guys, we would say that it's probably 8 days. Now, that person had to have their application in. They had to go through underwriting, all this stuff. They have to be pre-approved or approved for that loan whenever they write that contract. And you have to be willing to, give all of your account information, basically sign up and attach your accounts to their portal so that they can look at it. Not only that, you're going to have to be credit scores super high. Now, I know Fannie and Freddie they just upped their credit score. So before it was like, oh, anything above a 720 or something. Now it's like 770 is that top tier. I think that's what it is. So they've got to be top tier in that. They've got to have the assets. So you've got to have a lot of money in the bank. Think about appraisals. How quickly can you get appraisal? Not that quickly. So what has to happen is you have to get an appraisal waiver. How do you get an appraisal waiver? Well, you probably need to be putting 20% down or more on that property. And then they have to look at their system. And I don't know exactly how this works. We can talk to a lender. If you're a lender, you can kind of let us know in the comments. But they have to look at comps, or their system will say, all right, well, this is a value that we think is good. You're putting over 20% down. We will give you the appraisal waiver, meaning we don't even have to go out to the property. We don't have to have an appraisal. You're good to go. So that right there is pushing that qualification of buyers, or how many buyers can actually go through this program, is very small in my opinion. Now, he's saying in this that some of these buyers could have as little as 3% down. I don't know how he's closing a loan that quickly, getting them fully underwritten, and only putting 3% down and able to close that quickly. Because if you're putting 3% down, you're probably not getting an appraisal waiver. And so
you wouldn't qualify.
Yeah, you can't lump all this stuff in. So there might be a small section that he could do this with, but I don't think it's a big buyer thing. And then you think about it. All right, he says you can compete like cash. Well, that's what we aim to do. And we get our people, when we're in a competitive situation, we want them approved, ready to go. And they're basically competing against cash. So you can waive all your contingencies. If you have an appraisal waiver, you can waive it all. So you're basically cash. But who needs to close a loan in 3 days? Who needs to close that quickly? Very few times have I ever needed to close that quickly. Now, if you're in competition, I could see that working in your favor maybe, but that's so quick that it's almost like a turnoff. Like, hold on, dude. What are you trying to do, man? I'm still in my house. Like,
right.
Pull back, right?
So one of the comments said, this is a solution looking for a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the problem isn't, oh my gosh, I can't close my loan in 3 days. The problem is, okay, well, it's a 30-day close. Maybe we can bump it down to like 15 or 20. Like, do we really want to be able to close loans in 1 day? People aren't selling their house on Friday or Thursday and then closing or buying a house Thursday, closing Friday, you know what I mean? Moving Saturday. Maybe we get to that point at some point in the future, but I think I'm more on the line of like, all right, you're telling me you're backed up and your estimated closing time frame is 45 days. Can we do 20 days? Can we do 30 days? Like, I don't need to close by the end of the week, but we work with some, credit unions especially, and it's like, come on, this is what you're being paid for, and you're telling me that you don't pick up the phone after 5:01 p.m. and you can't close this for another 45 days. It's ridiculous. I wish some of the credit unions that are in this area and in the nation could maybe take a lesson out of this and say, hey, why don't we if they can do a 1-day mortgage, maybe we can do like a 30-day mortgage. Yeah, how about that?
That would be great.
How about that, credit unions? How about a 30-day mortgage?
Oh my gosh. I mean, how does it take you so long to do this? It's like, and the thing that drives me crazy is like, the whole process should be front-ended, right? Like we were doing when in a competitive market. Let's change this so that you're approved upfront, not later. And I understand that there's other things that have to go through, and you have to look at the house and make sure everything's good on that regard. I'll bring up another point. Title. These title companies have to be able to do a title search. They have to make sure that there is, clear title on that property, no encumbrances, everything's good. This takes time, and it probably takes more than 3 days a lot of times. And, these title companies, they have to go into the land records. They have to do searches. They hire other people to do these searches. So all of these processes take time. The quickest I have ever closed a deal in my 20 years was 5 days.
That was
with a
mortgage or with cash?
With cash.
That's
cash.
What about with a mortgage?
Mortgage, probably 10, maybe 12. Yeah, but 5 days, like we wanted to close as quickly as possible. And back then I was like, well, we got to look at title and see how quickly the title company could do it, because it was a builder and it was open, it was ready to go, and it was cash. And so we're like, let's just do it. And that got us the negotiation deal. So.
What I found is when someone's like, "Oh man, we got to close, we got to close, we got to close," usually it's another lender that's dropped the ball. And then it's, Monday after the weekend, you're closing Friday, and the lender's out to lunch, and you're like, all right, the lender says we can't do it. Like, we got to jump ship, and the lender's not responsive. We got to, maybe this other lender. And what I've found is usually the lender that's not responsive or the lender that doesn't do it are the online lenders, the lenders that are based in New York, the lenders that are based in California, the lenders that are based at a PO box and an 800 numbers. They're the ones that are dropping the ball. So instead of focusing on a one-day mortgage, why don't we focus on the process and getting that done well in advance to closing?
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. It drives me crazy. And thankfully, back in the day when I was in the early 2000s, I ran into this a lot more where we, like, I was always nervous about going to closing. Like, are we going to get there? There were so many times. And this is a time when you are at closing with the buyer and seller and their agents, and everybody's sitting there, and you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. You're like, oh my God, is the loan docs here? Are they here yet? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we're delayed. And you're like, oh my God. And you're sitting there for hours and you're just sweating. It was horrible. And thankfully, the loan processing has gotten so much better since then. Because honestly, man, if you want people staring you down and saying, are you settling on this? And there were many times that the day of closing, I had to delay many times. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God that I don't run into that anymore. And one, we found really good lenders. But two, I think the processes have gotten better, and, buyers have gotten better.
I don't envy you sweating in your suit, waiting on loan docs. Now, overall, I think I'm in favor of the one-day mortgage as just an idea because, Shawn, this is going to put pressure on other companies, on other lenders, on other banks to step it up. Now, I don't think I'm at a point where I would recommend better mortgage to my clients, but we're starting to get to the point where online lenders are no longer like the punchline of a joke. They
perform.
They apparently were in 2021.
Yeah.
But it's now getting to the point where if I'm on the listing side and if I see a Rocket Mortgage, if I see, some sort of online lender, I'm not heading for the hills. I might request a different lender, but it's not a serious red flag. So if Better Mortgage or if One Day Mortgage can put some pressure on these other guys, I think that's a benefit. And, Better Mortgage is also looking to go public sometime in Q1 or Q2. So that is also, I think, at the helm of this announcement in front of all these quote unquote movers and shakers in the New York City real estate market.
Yeah, it's a good time to announce. The thing with loans and anything in this process, it's a personal process. Anybody that says that real estate isn't personal is crazy, because this is always personal. And I think the lenders that win in our book are the lenders that not only can close quickly, but they have a good rapport with our clients. And that's really important in this day and age. Yeah, we want you to close, but are you able to communicate at the same time? That's, for me, I think that's big, and our lenders can do it. Yeah, they don't have to meet face-to-face, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, will you answer your phone when I'm calling? And that's important. And there's a lot of these companies where you call a 1-800 number and you're like fed through a system, and you might not get the same person twice. And that's what drives me crazy about it. And that's why I don't use certain lenders.
Yeah, I'm torn on this because if you're getting a mortgage, what's most important? The rate. Like, who cares if, the lender asks me about how my weekend is if their rate is higher?
I'm not saying about your weekend. I'm saying, can you explain this to me in a personal way?
The lender compliments my suit. I'm going to use him instead of an online lender.
I like your suit. Oh, you got the deal, buddy.
So, but at what, and you can't answer this question, but like, at what point is the lowest rate no longer the best option when it's clear that they're not going to be able to do it in a timely fashion,
Yeah, and that's another thing that we run into all the time is like, oh, I can get this rate here. And I'm like, all right, well, that's a really good rate. Do you really think that they can close your deal? Is this a teaser rate? And so a lot of times what you see on the internet, these are teaser rates. These are rates for a very few people that have the perfect thing that company's looking for. And usually you're not going to get it. And then there's others that'll promise you a rate, and then they're just so slow in their processes. Like, we've had people in the past that like, oh, I'm going with this lender. Meanwhile, they skip out on our lender, and then they're like, oh my gosh, we can't close, and then our lender comes in and scoops it up and actually closes the deal. So just be careful on who you're choosing as your lender. We know really good lenders, and we use them for good reasons.
Let's move on to our third topic. This is in or out, whether Shawn Battle is in or out on 3 properties across the United States. Shawn, let's go to Tacoma, Washington. Ooh. The Rust Mansion is up for auction, Shawn. So the Rust Mansion was purchased and built in 1905 by William Rust, one of the wealthiest business people in the United States at that time. It's gone through many different owners, and the newest owner, Ashley, I need her last name as well. So Ashley is a property developer in the Tacoma, Washington area, and she bought the property for about $2.7 million in 2021. It had fallen into disrepair in the past couple of years. Ashley and her late husband, who unfortunately, tragically died via a heart attack, in his 30s, which is a horrific tragedy. But Ashley and her late husband would walk by this mansion and think to themselves like this is an amazing property. We would love to purchase it sometime, like do a project, like do something with it. And she's kind of lived up to what they were looking to do when an opportunity came available, and she purchased it. And over the past year and a couple months maybe, she's been renovating it. Not only has she hired out people, but she's also done some of the renovations herself. I think I read that it's been more than a $1 million renovation to bring this property back up to where it needed to be. It's an absolute beauty of a property. I'll show you the quick video here. It's 11,000 square feet. It's a mansion. Now, sure, it doesn't look like any of the other properties nearby, but nor should it, because it's truly one of a kind property. Now it's up for auction in early February, listed for $4.8 million, but it is a no reserve auction, Shawn. So my question to you, the White House of the West, if you will, are you in or are you out on the Rust Mansion?
I love the story. I mean, it's unfortunate that her husband passed away, but I love that she went forward with it and kind of like did this and
kept all the details, the intricate millwork,
so intricate,
golden.
I'm in on it. If I had the money and could do it. I mean, look at those coffered ceilings with the round accents. I mean, beautiful, beautiful stuff. I love it. I think I would buy this if I just could. Now, I hope that the no reserve works in her favor.
I always see no reserve,
yeah,
and then I'll check back on a property like that's been in Springfield or McLean, and then it's like, auction canceled, or thing.
I guess they probably have the final say, maybe. Hopefully, I don't know. Wouldn't that be a reserve though? Like, all right, there's no reserve price, but I guess the seller can say, no, I'm not doing it. We don't do auctions all that much, so if you guys know, let us know. But yeah, because remember the one, right? The one. I don't think. Yeah, there wasn't a reserve on that one.
So, she bought it for 2.7. If she
put $1 million in it, that's 3.7.
That's 3.7.
She's paying realtor fees. That's a big daddy.
Yeah.
And then what's she asking?
Well, the quote unquote asking price is 4.8.
4.8. All right. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of work.
I mean, you got some premiums on top. There's a 12% buyer premium, 2% co-broker.
Commission.
Okay. And I don't really know what a starting bid incentive is. I think you get that off of the buyer's premium. But, talk about. You always talk about a one of a kind type of property with the historical value. Now I don't know what you do with it. You don't move into this house with 2 kids. This seems like an association would buy it, like a club or a fraternity or something, or sorority,
historical kind of thing. Yeah. What I love about this is the exterior, the front porch, the side wrapping porch, and then on top of that, you have a raised outdoor area that is like, a patio, kind of raised patio. It's really pretty. yeah, I think it's gorgeous. Now, I don't is that I'm not into the green room.
You don't like the green room.
There's some bright colors in this, but it goes with that historical kind of look. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I don't like that wallpaper. I don't like that shade.
Okay, well, the wallpaper, you can get rid of the wallpaper.
Yeah. It's cool though. I dig it. I'd still buy it.
Yeah, I mean the cost of maintenance of I mean, so Ashley, the property developer, has got it. She brought it back to its former glory, but in order to keep that glory there, you got to be sinking a lot of coin into this property. I'm in on it, but I'll have to get back. You know, the money's in the mail, right?
Yeah,
the check's in the mail
sure.
for the 4.8. What do you think it'll go for? Because we know what Tacoma properties will go for.
I have no idea. All right. I'm going to guess it's going to go for $5.35 million.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I would be shocked if it went for 4.
Really? Okay.
I don't think 4.8 is the starting point.
Yeah, 5.35. That's what I'm going for.
I'm going with 4. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Next houses. Three's Company, trio of oceanfront houses remodeled on Battle on the Beach, offered for $2.9 million. So there are 3 houses that are listed for sale together for 2.9. So you can do the math on how much
it's a steal.
Each house is worth. Yeah, direct beach access in Surfside, Texas. So think Houston, Texas, and then go like straight south, if you will. And the houses were renovated by Ty Pennington, Allison Victoria, and Tania Nyack of Build It Forward. And they were their goal was to renovate each house with $80,000. So they went ahead, renovated each house with a budget of $80,000. The houses are 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1,500 square feet. They each have their own like eclectic designs, and they have like, HGTV features and, whimsical bedrooms and, cool tile and stuff like that. Shawn, you in or out on 3 houses for $2.9 million in Surfside, Texas?
It's the Battle on the Beach. Of course I'm in. I'm a beach lover. Man, if I wasn't living in Arlington, I'd be living at the beach somewhere. So
there are such things as buying multiple houses.
We're getting there, buddy. We're getting there. I'm trying. But this is it. I've never been to Texas, where I've actually.
You've never been to Texas?
I flew into
the
an airport. I flew into the airport. That's all I've Dallas.
Wow.
I've never been.
We got to get you west of the Mississippi.
Man. I know. Well, I've been west, but I haven't been to Texas.
So,
but I love this. I mean, listen, you could live in one, rent the other 2 out, Airbnb the other 2. You're right there. You can take care of the places. You can watch those people. You can make sure they're not partying too much. I love it. I think it's great.
You see the stilts?
I see the
stilts. Do you
stilts.
know why the stilts are there?
Yeah.
For beach houses?
Yep, sure do.
Do you see how there's no sand dune?
Well,
and how you're right next to a bunch of vans?
Yeah, but that's beach house. That's beach living, man. You go to the Outer Banks, everything's on stilts. Look at that other house that's right next to it. They're even closer to the ocean, not on stilts. So
I don't know if you want to compare houses on stilts in the Outer Banks.
Look at that one. That one's even closer. Look how close that thing is to the water.
So you're like, okay, well, we're good because he or she's gonna go first. I just want to pull up a Google map of Surfside just to show you real quick.
Now, I don't know values down there, so I don't know if that's a good deal. But I mean, oceanfront property, 3 houses for $3 million, $1 million a piece. That seems to me pretty good. I know they're not huge, but they're really well done inside. I mean, Ty Pennington. He's always doing good things. And
so you're on the Gulf.
Yeah.
I'm not a hurricane expert, but you've heard stories about Houston getting hit by hurricanes, correct? Yeah. Now, if a hurricane were to come through the Gulf, where do you think it's going to hit? You think Galveston's going to get hit? Do you think Houston's going to get hit? Do you think Surfside Beach? Do you think your 3 houses are going to get hit? Now, the houses look amazing. 1,500 square feet. And what I didn't even tell you is that you get beach to bay frontage.
I mean,
so
of course you're buying this. I mean, this is insanity.
And there are...
it doesn't matter about hurricanes.
It's also... So you get all of that land.
Cool. Wow, that's
And then it's
huge.
also zoned commercial. So you could essentially put like a restaurant up there or like some sort of commercial spot.
That's very cool. Now, listen, hurricanes, they could hit anywhere on those coasts. We look at North Carolina gets hit all the time. Not direct hits, but they're going to get hit at some point. You're
Look
on the
at
beach.
just all
These are
the
risks.
water on the inland.
But that's everywhere. The same thing with Ocean City, Outer Banks. I mean, anywhere on our coastline it's swampland, basically. It's a little bit raised up. So the little bit of water pushes through there. Yeah. I mean, that's all going to be gone. We've seen what happened in Florida, That's the risk you take. And that's why insurance is so high. And that's one thing you got to think about when you buy an oceanfront property is, can you get insurance? And how much is that insurance? Because $3 million, I wonder what that insurance bill is.
I love how you're just the least bit concerned about.
Hey, live life, man. If it hits you, it hits you. But hope it doesn't, and go surfing.
So I'm out on these houses. However,
you can come and visit, man.
When Shawn buys them, I'd love to do like a family reunion, rent out all three of them.
Think about
that would be really
cool.
cool.
3 different houses right next to each other. I mean, the families that would want to do that. Oh man,
it's good floor plans. Like it's 3, 2, 3 bed, 2 baths. So good layout.
I'm gonna look into that property. Honestly.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're selling them all,
at
together.
And you know what? I've seen this happen before, where sometimes that isn't the smartest thing. I used to flip properties, for example, and I had 2 townhouses that I was doing at the same time, and I put them on at the same time, and I was like, why did I do that? They were different price tiers. But still, like, if I would have waited a little while until that one sold, I would have got a much better price for the second one. And so I think that's probably the better way to go. But maybe there's an investor that says, I want all 3, and you'll pay a premium to get all 3.
Properties are gorgeous on the inside, so I think someone will scoop them up. All right, let's move on to our last house. This is Through the Looking Glass. A sleek Vermont loft is a $689,000 dream. This comes to us from Realtor.com. So, Shawn, this is different than the glass invisible houses that we were looking at last episode. This is like industrial loft type of vibes in the Vermont countryside. So 1 bedroom, 2 bathroom, almost like, dare I say it, Soho industrial loft vibe. Shawn, are you in? And it's currently rented out on Airbnb. Are you in or out on a 1 bedroom loft in Vermont for $689,000?
I'm gonna pass on this one, Matt. I don't like the industrial feel out in Vermont. I don't feel it. I want a different vibe when I'm in Vermont, and I just feel like this is a little bit contradictory.
Maybe like a cottage or a cabin.
Yeah, you want something cute and cozy, not industrial and kind of cold feeling.
Even the other one that we looked at, the glass one in Vermont, that one still had like a warm kind of vibe.
It had a warm, and it had that outdoor patio with a hot tub. This just feels a little bit too cold and stale for me, and it's only a 1 bedroom with loft. And for $689,900. Now you're going to say something that's going to catch me. Aren't you?
I'll tell you where. I'll tell you where it won't feel cold, and that's your feet because it has heated floors.
Oh, that's cool.
Are you still out?
I'm still out. I'm still out. Yeah, because it's concrete floors. I just want something cozy up there, and I feel like this would be just not what I'm looking for. So I'm out.
So it's always so interesting to me to look at the history of when it sells, and oftentimes in Northern Virginia, properties will sell every 5 years, every 10 years, every 3 years, whatever. It's such a weird question to ask, like, oh, why are they selling? Like, who really cares, right? Like, who cares why they're selling? However, I will say that the home, it's called The Looking Glass. It's available to rent on Airbnb. It was purchased in 2022.
Wow.
It was purchased 8 months ago in June 2022 for $450,000. They've improved it since then. But I'm now even more curious because they purchased the home last year. They have it on Airbnb currently. Why? And they have 15 reviews. Why are they selling it? Clearly, it's not worth the time or the effort or the expense that they're incurring to have it on Airbnb. Isn't that strange that they're doing that?
And they're getting they're asking a high price compared to what they bought it for. I don't know. I mean, we'd have to go look at old pictures to see what kind of money they put into this place. Sometimes when you over-improve and you over-improve something that doesn't really fit in the area, you're going to have a trouble kind of selling that. So, and the market's fallen since then. So, especially in those Vermont areas, there were a lot of people going for those places back in 2022 because that Airbnb second home kind of thing was really big. Now we're going to, the market's fallen, the interest rates have risen. Now you're trying to get $200,000 more than you paid for it. I don't know. It's tough.
So I'm out. I'm
Yeah,
out on this. I think it's just too much for what they're offering. And I'll throw a screenshot up here, but I Googled where Barnard, Vermont is. No
Yeah.
one in the world knows where Barnard, Vermont is. And there was like a winter storm warning, like literally on Google Maps. And some of the reviews said like you need a 4-wheel drive
Yeah.
vehicles. So I think even if I'm like looking at this from a short-term rental investment, like why would someone sell it like immediately, right? 8 months after. Why would someone sell it immediately after they bought it? Clearly, it's not working out for them.
Yeah, and that whole wall of windows in the winter up there.
Hope
gonna be
it's
chilly.
hope it's insulated. Hope it's double pane,
I hope so.
maybe triple pane. All right, well, there you have it. Another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.